Hey witches, welcome back to my channel. This is Birdie Witch Writes and I'm your host Deidre. We talk about writing here, but today we're also going to be talking about books, specifically books that I have read over the last couple of months that have really helped me outside of writing with some mental health, personal stuff. I want to start by saying that I am not a mental health expert. If you are or know someone who is struggling, that is definitely, there are numbers you can reach out. There are people you can reach out, definitely get help, but this is just something that I had to start doing for myself. I have always been a person that turned to books when I needed something, and over the summer, I've kind of talked about how I had another really emotional, draining, exhausting year last year while I was teaching, and at the end of the year, I actually went to training for 2 weeks after the school year ended. So my summer was even shorter. It went from 7 weeks to 5 weeks, or I think it was 8 weeks to 7. I don't know. It was really short, and I was in training for 2 of them at some leadership training, and I got a recommendation for one of the books that I read, and then the other one I just found while perusing, looking for something else to add on top of it. So I'm going to talk about those 2 books today, how they've helped me and who I recommend them for. They've helped me not only in my professional life, but also with my writing and my goals and having the courage to actually do this channel and pursue this dream that I've had for so long. So without further ado, let's start talking about the first book. This book was recommended to me by a fellow teacher who was at this training. She had just finished it, and it's called Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle, by a set of twins, Emily and Amelia Nagoski, I think is how you say that name. I really loved this book and the way that it was written. It has a lot of research to back up what they're saying about burnout and ways to overcome it. And what I liked about this is that it wasn't specific to education. So a lot of the teacher education burnout books that I've read have been put yourself back in there, but set boundaries, and they aren't actionable. They just really want you to remember your why. That's a big thing with teaching, is your why. And that just wasn't cutting it for me anymore. So this book, although it is recommended for teachers, it's recommended for any, specifically women in high stress jobs. I could see this if you're a stay-at-home mom, if you're a nurse, a doctor. There's an engineer in here that they talk about, but it took snapshots of hundreds of women that they had interviewed and broke them into 2. One was a teacher and one was a engineer of some sort, a system engineer, I want to say, but I could be wrong. And just talked about their personal experiences and gave us actionable steps of what stress is, how it actually is fired in our brains, and how our society doesn't allow for this stress in our lives to we don't release it. So they gave this example in there about back in the day, if you were attacked by a lion or something like that and your tribe came to save you, or you ran back to your tribe and you escaped, there would be this huge celebration and you were safe. But now our society is relatively safe most of the time, and we don't have those moments of we just come home after a stressful day and we don't release that stress. So this is all about breaking that stress cycle, and it actually gives you steps within the first couple of chapters that you can start doing. And I did start doing these. A couple of them my husband had to be involved in. One of them was an 8-second kiss, and that's just supposed to activate in your brain that you're home and you're safe. And so I had to tell my husband about them, and even it's been months, and even now I can just be I need an 8-second kiss, and he'll do it because he knows that I'm feeling overwhelmed or stressed about something. And I really liked too that the stress in here that was talked about wasn't it was everyday things that just pile up. Dealing with somebody at work that you don't really get along with, that's kind of a jerk. dealing with other stressors like raising a kid, having a relationship, and how that just piles on. And if you don't release the stress every day, that it actually builds up and can physically harm you. I had never reached that point, but I think if I hadn't found this book, I could definitely have seen myself like having some physical side effects from it. Obviously, the number one recommended, I think every book recommends this for stress release, is exercising. But I liked that it recognized that sometimes that's just not feasible. Like there are times that as a teacher I work like 14-hour days, and the last thing I want to come do is come home and work out for 30-40 minutes. I just don't have the time or the energy. But an 8-second kiss is something that I can always do. And so this book was really great. It had lots of like actions that you could do, how to overcome the burnout, and one of them is like figuring out what your percentage is, and like there's worksheets in it. I highly recommend this book if you're feeling stressed at all and like just burnt out, like you just don't care anymore about like your job or where you are. It's really it's an easy read. There's lots of like research, like I think the back, like I don't even know how many pages, is just all of this is just the research that they cited. So it's really cool. It talks about how to deal with, I don't know, the rigged of the game. It's definitely for women. I don't know if a man would get as much. If that's just their target audience, right? They knew who their target audience was, and they went for it. It's a really great book if you need help breaking the stress cycle. The other book that I want to talk very briefly about is Self-Sabotage No More by Jeannie Potter. And I read this one on Kindle. And it says, stop repeating the past and start creating your future. I don't know how much science was really in this book, but I really appreciated the simplicity of it. It was a little hippie sometimes for me. There was some religious stuff in there that I didn't really need, but she's a religious person, so I appreciated it. But she talked about how like she was a self-sabotager, and I could definitely relate to that. I feel like I have lots of motivation and lots of ideas and this desire to do something, and then I find a reason not to do it, and I have lots of reasons not to do things, and that's why I wrote my books 4 years ago and I haven't done anything since. I could easily find the excuses and find the reasons of why I can do it, and I always made it seem like it was okay that I wasn't doing those things. And this book just woke up a lot of personal habits, like made me reflect on those personal habits. It also encouraged me to start doing daily gratitude writings, which I do, and I write about the things that I'm grateful for every day in my life now, and they're just simple things. One of them is obviously, the first one I always write is how I am married to an amazing, wonderful man who is so supportive of all of my craziness from the beginning, and it just makes me take a moment every morning to pause and be grateful. But then I also write affirmations about what I am, as if that is where I am in my life. It's just where I want to be. So they're like manifestations or affirmations, but it's just something that I've started doing, and it's really helped me keep a positive mindset. So I think the combination of both these books has made me feel like, yes, it doesn't have to be perfect, and I still have moments where I feel like if I don't do it right the first time, I've failed. And I feel like a lot of people can relate to that. I don't know why I am that way, but I am. And these books have helped me, like, even like after it happens. It still happens a lot, but I'm working on it. And I'm trying to reflect and recover quicker from my failures when I don't do something right the first time. So the biggest example is the macaroon debacle of 2024, as I'm calling it. I promised that video last week, and I've learned that you don't make promises in YouTube because sometimes things happen. Life happens. So if you tuned in because you wanted to watch the macaroon video, you're just going to have to wait a week because I need more time to edit that sucker because it was a rough going. But and I had to stop because I was feeling perfection-y and it wasn't coming out right. But now I've had time to reflect and realize like there was a reason that things happened and I can grow from that. So I'm really excited for that video. I just want to give it time to work on. And so both these books have really guided me and keep me focused on my goals and like moving forward. And even just reviewing for this video, I realized that I've let some stress build up. I have 5 preps this year and I'm starting and the play is starting, and I'm starting to feel like that stress of managing all of that creeping back in. I had managed to keep it at bay for a couple of months at work and balancing things better, but now that more has been added, and I've added a lot more in with the writing and the videos and the blog posts, so a lot of it is personally stuff that I've done to myself. I'm gonna have to review these probably tonight and make sure that I'm making time for my exercise and my personal health to make sure that I don't start to feel that burnout again, because it's only going to get rougher here for a little bit. I'm very excited. I did cast the show this week, and I think it's a really strong cast. The students seem very excited, and we start rehearsals next week, so tomorrow actually. So I'm really looking forward to all of that, but I know that I'm going to start feeling the pressure of balancing being at work from 7 in the morning to 6 at night a couple times a week, and then going in on Fridays to get things done. It's just going to be a lot soon, and I need to remember these techniques, and I need to keep my gratitude going and my affirmations that I'm moving in the right direction and that things are going to be okay. And I am very excited to keep going with this channel, and I hope somebody out there, I think these are very helpful for writers too, because I feel like a lot of writers, you write your first draft and then you go back to read it and you realize that, oh my god, this is terrible. And I think that's the beauty of first drafts, is that they are allowed to be horrible, but a lot of people expect their first drafts, especially if it's their first book, to be great right out of the gate. And that is not the case at all, and that's a nice reminder. So reading these books, if you're feeling stressed, if you are a perfectionist, I think these would be a great help for anybody who is a little bit like me and feels that pressure to be perfect all of the time. And yeah, so that's this week's video. I hope it helps a few people, and I can't wait to see what our adventure keeps going. All right, guys, talk to you later.